Why did it take me so long to move to California? I hear people talking about, I miss the winter. I miss the seasons. I miss the leaves turning orange and falling off. I miss ice and snow. It's like all I could ever say to people who whine about the seasons is, why don't you just get on a plane in the end of March when there's snow everywhere in the East Coast and the Midwest, and just rock out and enjoy like a weekend filled with the hurting, ice-cold wind, slipping on ice, and hurting yourself. Just enjoy that slush, dirty slush for like 8 months out of the whole year. Just gross, disgusting brown water everywhere. You have a tiny heater that you're like, oh my God, and your entire house is useless. All you can be is under covers, freaking out, trying to stay warm. It's caveman style. One season for me, one season. Hey, this week on Sweaty Nerds, we're gonna be talking about Freaked, the Keanu Reeves Dogboy insano film. We're gonna be talking about Brazil, Terry Gilliam's masterpiece of sci-fi repression. We're gonna talk about the Batman, one of the coolest characters ever created in comic book history. If you don't like Batman, turn this off right now. We're also gonna cover Batman's best video game ever, Arkham Asylum. On Sweaty Nerds, let's go! Hey, welcome to another amazing episode of Sweaty Special Effects Nerds. I'm Jon Schnepp. I'm sitting here with Cig Neutron, face-off master, prosthetics weirdo. Cig, welcome to the show.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, we're going to talk about another amazing film. This one is 1993's Freak Fest called Freaked.
So
now, if you haven't seen Freaked, you deserve a big slap in the face. You got to see Freaked. Rent it, buy it immediately. It's an incredible film. One of the weirder films on the list of special effects films that we're going to be talking about, and that's because the guys who made it, Alex Winter, Tom Stern, these guys, they're in a league of their own as far as weirdos, and they produced quite an amazing film. Let's talk about Freak. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it speaks to my soul. Like every single, it's like that's what the inside of my head looks like. It's just the character design, everything. It has this weird cartoony realism that I just like, I freak over.
Yeah. Rightfully so. A lot of people don't know, but Keanu Reeves was even in this movie. He played uncredited, I think he played the dog boy. But let's give a little nod to one of the best and craziest and weirdest actors around, Randy Quaid, as the Freak Master. I mean, this movie had so many incredible special effects, especially characters in outfits. Let's just talk a little bit about the Worm Boy, Sockhead. I mean, let's talk about some of these characters.
Well, I think the entire budget for the film was $12 million, and I think most of that went to the special effects, and you can see why. I mean, it's they had Steve Johnson and Bill Corso. Like it's the way, like for instance, the Beast Boy, like that has, I love that makeup. The way that so he has like a foam latex appliance on half the face, and I'm assuming they rig up by cable control some things to move that lip, and just the way that the teeth go into that lip, and it flows so nicely when he's talking. It's like, it's so good. And that was actually real drool, by the way, because it was the makeup was keeping his mouth open, so they didn't even have to add fake drool.
No need to fake the drool. Nope. Just let him keep suffering in pain.
Shove a giant toothy thing in his mouth, and there you go.
Well, what other special effects can we talk about? Let's go to, that's the Freak Boy. You can, powered by real drool. Yeah. And let's talk about the eyeballs.
This guy's, they crack me up.
Yeah, if you guys haven't seen Freaked, do yourself a favor, right after this segment, find that film and see it. You won't stop laughing. So that'll wrap it up for Freaked, and that'll wrap it up for this segment of Sweaty Special Effects Nerds. Cig, where can people find you online?
Twitter and Instagram at Cig Neutron and bizarrogogo.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in to another Sweaty Special Effects Nerds. I'll see you guys in a couple. Hey, welcome to another segment of Sweaty Comic Book Nerds. I'm Jon Schnepp, and sitting across from me is Comic Book Girl 19. 19, how's it going?
Great. Glad to be here.
Well, thanks for coming. Today, we are going to talk about the one and only, the amazing, the Dark Knight, Batman. And we're going to talk about some of the greatest appearances, some of the best artists, some of the amazing writers who've had a great turn with this character. Let's start with you first.
And there are tons of great Batman titles. I mean, it was really hard for me to just narrow it down to two. But I would like to start with Hush. Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee doing it. it's a great one if you just want to see all the different villains going, and it's a good mystery, and the scenes with Catwoman are really hot. That's a really fun one that I highly recommend.
Yeah, and also let Jim Lee kind of play in the Batman universe again. Like he did do that. Hush was that his very first Batman, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, he basically every issue had a different villain in it. It was almost like the Jeff Loeb, how do you say his last name?
Sale? I think it's a Sale.
Okay, Sale.
That's what I've heard.
Come sail away, come sail. I think it's Sale. So yeah, it was like the the Halloween, like where each episode had a different villain. So this one, Jim Lee got to play with Killer Croc, his version of it. His version of the Joker. So, but yeah, Hush also great villain. For me, obviously, we're going to talk about The Dark Knight Returns and they go together year one.
Yeah.
I mean, David Mazzucchelli. Unfortunately, he kind of retired from regular superheroes after he did his run on Daredevil, and then he did Batman. He's done a couple of independent comic books, which are great. I don't know if he'll ever return to superhero comics, but he really he knocked it out of the park.
Mazzucchelli's artwork is just so strong. It's always so strong, and it's so funny to see things like Daredevil Born Again, where it's this completely different style from what he does with Batman Year One, but it's still just so amazing. Love his work.
Yeah, another amazing Batman story that I'm sure you've heard of, but you really deserve to give yourself a chance to read it is The Killing Joke. It's Alan Moore and Brian Boland. An incredible self-contained, I think a 48-page amazing story dealing with Batman and his yin-yang Joker relationship and how they actually, are brutal friends, you could almost say.
Yeah, and it's just such a big one in the Batman mythos because this is the one where Barbara Gordon gets shot, senselessly shot in the spine, and it puts her in a wheelchair and starts her whole Oracle thing and all of that follows afterwards. Although now she's out of the wheelchair again, finally. But she was in that wheelchair for a while, and this is where that came from.
Another one to touch on is going back in time. We could talk about the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams Batman run, which basically kind of put the Dark Knight back into Batman. And then a couple years later, in the early '80s, right before Frank Miller took over, and made Batman who he is now, we had a run by Mike Barr and Alan Davis, which was a real fun run for Batman. It was almost like Adam West, the funny Batman, meets this kind of darker Batman, but they just hadn't figured it out yet. And then once Frank Miller nailed it, that became what Batman is.
Yeah. Another great one, if you are not necessarily into superheroes and you're not necessarily into Bruce Wayne, but you're curious about getting into superhero comics, I would say Batman Year 100 by Paul Pope is something to check out because there's no Bruce Wayne in it. It's the idea of Batman in the future. You see Gotham, it's become this overbearing police state. It's got really cool independent indie art by Paul Pope.
I mean, if you've never seen Paul Pope, Heavy Liquid, this guy is a genius, and his take on Batman is insane. I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hey, that's it for us talking about the amazing Batman character. Come back next time. We'll talk more about other characters and superheroes and what other comics you should be checking out that those characters have been in. So I'd like to thank Comic Book Girl 19 for being here. Where can people find you online?
You can find me on YouTube. You just got to search for Comic Book Girl 19. In fact, you just do Comic Book G and I'll pop up, generally speaking.
Awesome.
Also my website, comicbookgirl19.com.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for tuning in to Comic Book Sweat Fest. It's a sweaty comic book nerds. I'll see you guys next time. Hey everybody, welcome back to Sweaty Sci-Fi Nerds. I'm Jon Schnepp. Sitting across from me is Chris Gore, founder of Film Threat. You've seen him on G4. Thanks for being on the show, Chris.
Thanks for having me again, John.
Today we are going to talk about an incredible film that came out in 1985. It blew me away. It's Terry Gilliam's Brazil. I think is one of his best films besides Time Bandits that he's ever made. It's very controversial because to me it's we're edging into that world, this totalitarian, really scary universe. What are your thoughts on it?
I think we're actually living in that world now. I mean, with the exception of the weird facelifts in the film. Wait a second, I actually think that we do have that. I've driven through Beverly Hills before. Oh, no. But yeah, no, it's weird because you look at that movie and we kind of are edging more towards a totalitarian state. We're bogged down in stupid paperwork with everything, and things have just become more complex, and we become more superficial towards each other.
Right.
Certainly.
Every day is Christmas. Here, have Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Here's your present I grabbed from a pile. Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the great, incredible performances. Robert De Niro as, hey, what's going on? Let me fix your pipes. See you later, doing a little Groucho Marx, Jonathan Pryce as the poor, sad schlump. What was his name? Tuttle, I believe.
Yeah.
So, and then he gets mistakenly mixed up into the bureaucracy and paperwork of the world of Brazil because it's buttle, bad stamping, makes a lot of really horrible, horrible things go wrong. So I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with like having to get like paperwork done with insurance or like filing for, you know,
going to the DMV.
Yes.
I mean, Brazil may as well be about going to the DMV. But what's great about it also, it's one of Terry Gilliam's visually one of his best looking films. I mean, all of his films, he tends to really shoot for the stars, you know, with just like, you know, bombarding you with incredible imagery. And this one, I think it all gels together perfectly.
Yeah, and this one had the most, it had the most meat to it as far as story-wise, a Ministry of Fear, all these horrible, weird ways of looking at our future that we now live in. It's also got one of the best casts he ever worked with, Bob Hoskins, Katherine Hellman, the list is endless. So if you haven't seen Brazil yet, do yourself a favor and check out Brazil. You will not be disappointed. Where can people find you online, Chris?
You can find me at chrisgore.com or follow me on Twitter at @thatchrisgore.
Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Sweaty Sci-Fi Nerds. Hey, welcome to Sweaty Video Game Nerds. I'm Jon Schnepp. I'm sitting here with the video game mistress of the madness, Maude Garrett. Welcome to the show.
Wow, thanks for the intro.
Hey, today we're going to talk about an incredible Batman game called Batman Arkham Asylum and all its later iterations. But I just want to start off by talking about how incredible they finally captured Batman. Like, playing this game is the first time I ever felt like my giant fat self was Batman, hanging upside down, beating on criminals. It's just literally they captured what it would feel like to play Batman in the comfort of your own home with no actual real danger. So let's talk about Batman Arkham Asylum.
You are so right. They completely take over Gotham in this one, and they do such a great job because it is dark and gritty. And I think a big reason why they've nailed it is because it was written by Paul Dini, who did a lot of the comics. So he knows the Batman universe better than most people. So he was able to capture that so well. You do see a lot of familiar faces in this one. You get to know the Joker a lot better. You see the origins of Harley Quinn. You do go into the asylum, which is not only scary, but filled with great adventure at the same time. Kevin Conroy is voicing Batman, and he's one of the best voices of Batman I've come across. I thought he is great in it. But what's awesome is Mark Hamill is Joker.
Yeah.
Like, that is your nerd sweat right there. That is just like, look at that. That's just when you're just playing controllers and you realize it's moist because there's just seeping out everywhere. But because this game was so successful, in fact, it has a Guinness World Record for being the most critically acclaimed superhero game out there. So obviously we've seen so many more games from Batman since, like Batman Arkham City.
Right, where you actually are outside of the asylum. But like the actual asylum, some of the sequences when he was fighting Scarecrow, those are really freaky, like weird and very hard to get past. Weird, different strategy style. It's not just third person. You're like scrolling across this giant nightmare city. I wanted to also mention that not only Mark Hamill, but Kevin Conroy and Paul Dini are all from the animated series of Batman. So they did a great service of bringing over what was a great iteration of Batman, the animated series, and then bringing it into this incredible 3D world, this video game. Like Arkham City, I played a little bit of it. I haven't gotten through it. So what were your take on Arkham City?
This is more about Catwoman this time around. Like, there's a side plot there, which I thought was really great. You know, you've just seen Arkham Asylum, and you know, you're just going on from what happened there. Funny, I didn't finish Arkham Asylum. I was too busy going straight to City. That's what I wanted to do. But like you say, it's so open world, and you were able to access all parts of it. So you've got your grappling hook and your batarang, everything, you know, you're able to be fully immersive. But it's funny that you mentioned the fighting style, because that's what was unique with these games. You know, you can button mash if you want to, but you have to be really kind of smart about the button play, and you're able to unlock different ways that you can battle. And so it'll kind of be like, hey, you've just learnt to use, you know, other things in your environment. Maybe you want to pick up that big barrel there and throw it at your enemy. And
it's like, very satisfying too. The graphic, they're like, hey, I just smashed that guy in the face with my knee.
Yeah, well, there's nothing worse than, you know, having a long game, like 20 hours more, and just doing the same thing over and over again. It's like, as a gamer, you kind of want to be able to do more with this, and they give it straight to you.
So you got a chance to play Arkham
Knight.
Arkham Knight.
Yes. Well, I went to Montreal actually to test out Batman Origins, which is 5 years before Arkham Asylum. So this is a younger Batman. But they had Roger Craig Smith voicing Batman this time to be younger and have that more of a youthful sound. Really like Roger. Unfortunately, the game didn't go so well. I'm not sure if it was because they realised that they had a good thing going, so they wanted to do it quite quickly. But what was really cool going behind the scenes there at the mocap studio is that they used the exact same camera that James Cameron used for Avatar. Wow. So like that whole mocap where when you look into the display there, the whole world was already in it. And the actors in their mocap gear became like the character on the screen. Wow. Like in real time. That's like mind-blowing.
I mean, it's really incredible. Just the animated capture scenes that they've done, the movie, it's like cinematic.
Yeah.
It's incredible, all the scenes that they've shown online. And when you're playing the game, when you have those in-game cinematics, they've just like, it's literally like you're watching a movie. Yeah. It's very satisfying.
And then it's like, all right, now play it. Now play as this character. You're like, okay, Gotham needs me.
If you guys have not played Arkham Asylum or Arkham City or Arkham Knight, you owe it to yourself to become Batman for 1 to 40 days, however long it takes you to get totally immersed. I want to wrap this one up and say, Maude, where can people find you online?
If you search Maude Garrett on anything social media, you'll find me. But if you want to catch more Geek Bomb, jump onto geekbomb.net.
Awesome. And I will see you guys later in the sweaty video game nerd realm.
Hey, if you're not getting sweaty, you should be getting sweaty right now by clicking on these links: special effects, video games, sci-fi movies, and the comic books. We're providing you links about everything we just talked about in the episode, plus more. So click on those links, get sweaty, get playing, get watching. Let's get sweaty. Let's get sweaty.